People like her should be grateful I even share the road, the man snapped. If she can't handle a ticket, she should get a different life. I was sitting on the bench in Providence Municipal Court, looking down at him as he spoke. I'm Judge Frank Caprio, and I have heard a lot in this room. I have heard anger. I have heard fear. I have heard excuses that fall apart like wet paper. But the way this man said it, like he was doing the world a favor just by breathing, made the whole courtroom feel colder. He was 42 years old, tall, and sharp in the way a knife is sharp. His hair was slicked back, like he spent more time on it than most people spend on breakfast. He wore a fitted navy suit that looked expensive. The cuffs of his white shirt showed off a heavy gold watch. His shoes shined like mirrors. His smile was small and mean, like he already knew how this would end. And across from him sat the woman he was talking about. She did not look angry. She looked tired. Not, I stayed up late watching TV tired. She looked, I have carried too much for too long, tired. Her hands were folded in front of her like she was holding herself together. I could feel the whole gallery watching, waiting, wondering if I would let that comment slide. I leaned forward a little. My voice stayed calm, but my eyes did not. In my courtroom, I said, we don't talk about people like they are less than human. The man shrugged like the rule was cute, and if you believe justice should be equal for everyone, you'll want to see what happens next. The bailiff called out in a clear voice that echoed off the wood and stone. Case 2026 TR 1847, City of Providence versus Ms. Marisol Vega. I looked down at the file, then up at the defendant. Good morning, Ms. Vega, I said. Step forward, please. She stood and walked to the front. Her shoes were plain. Her coat was the kind you buy because it is warm, not because it is stylish. She held a folder that looked worn at the edges, like she had opened it 100 times. Good morning, Your Honor, she said. Her voice was soft but steady. I nodded. Tell me what brings you here. She took a breath like it cost her something. I got a ticket for parking in a no-parking zone, she said. Outside Harborview Medical Center. That was a made-up hospital in our fictional world, but in my courtroom, the feelings were real. The place did not matter as much as why she was there. I flipped a page. The citation says you blocked a fire lane for 8 minutes. Yes, Your Honor, she said, and her cheeks turned pink. I shouldn't have. I know that. I was trying to get inside. I watched her eyes. They had that look some people have when they are afraid to sound like they are begging. What do you do for work? I asked. I'm a patient transporter, she said. I move patients from one part of the hospital to another. Wheelchairs, beds. Sometimes I help lift. Sometimes I just listen when they're scared. That job does not come with fame. It does not come with applause. It comes with aching feet and sore shoulders and long hallways. And you're a single mom? I asked, because I had that note in the file. Yes, Your Honor, she said. 2 kids. Mateo is 9. Lila is 6. The gallery got quieter. Even people who tried to act tough in court often soften when children are mentioned. Why were you at the hospital that day? I asked. Her fingers tightened around her folder. My babysitter canceled. I had to bring my kids with me. My supervisor called me in early because they were short-staffed. I didn't want to lose hours. I can't afford that. She paused, and I could tell she was deciding how much truth to spill in a room full of strangers. I parked where I shouldn't, she said. I ran them inside to the security desk because I couldn't leave them alone outside. I asked security to call the child care office. The hospital has a small program for staff emergencies, but it took time. I looked at the ticket again. 8 minutes. 8 minutes can be a long time in a fire lane. It can also be the difference between keeping your job and losing it. Before I could ask my next question, the man from the opening hook let out a loud laugh. Not a laugh of joy, a laugh like he was stepping on something. I glanced to my right. He was not listed as the officer. He was not listed as a witness, yet he was here, sitting bold as brass, acting like he owned the room. "Who are you, sir?" I asked. He stood up without waiting to be invited. That alone told me a lot. "Derek Lawton," he said. "I'm here because this is my ticket too, in a way." I raised an eyebrow. "Explain." He pointed at Miss Vega like she was an object on a shelf. "She caused a scene," he said. "She was parked in the fire lane. My car had to go around. She held things up. People like her make everything harder. People like her." The words hit the room like a bad smell. Ms. Vega's shoulders pulled in. She looked down, not because she was ashamed, but because she was trying not to cry. I kept my voice even. "Mr. Lawton, you are not a party to this case. You are not the officer. If you have something relevant, you will wait your turn and speak respectfully." He smiled like I was a teacher telling him to stop chewing gum. "I'm respectful," he said. "I'm just honest." The gallery shifted. A few heads shook. One woman in the back whispered, "Unbelievable." I turned back to Ms. Vega. "Let's stay with the facts," I said. "Did an officer speak to you?" "Yes, Your Honor," she said. "Officer Klein." "Did you explain your situation?" "I tried," she said, "but he was busy. He said fire lanes are fire lanes." I nodded. "That's true. The rule is there for a reason." Then I looked again at Mr. Lawton. His suit jacket pulled tight across his chest when he crossed his arms. I noticed a bright silver key fob in his hand, the kind that comes with a luxury car. He made sure it was visible, like a badge. The first disrespect moment came fast. He muttered, not even quietly, "Excuses are cheaper than parking." I paused. I let the silence do some work. "Mr. Lawton," I said, "this is your first warning. You don't interrupt. You don't insult. You don't treat this court like your private stage." He lifted his hands like he was innocent. "Fine, Judge. I'll behave." But his eyes said the opposite. "In my courtroom, I have learned something. Some people think rules are ropes meant to tie up everyone else. They don't think the ropes are for them. They think they have scissors." Act 2 started the moment Ms. Vega opened her folder. "I brought evidence," she said. "Go ahead," I told her. She slid a paper toward the clerk, and it was passed up to me. It was evidence number 1. It was a printed schedule from Harborview Medical Center. At the top was her name, Marisol Vega. Under it were shifts, hours, and a big red note stamped across the page, "Mandatory early start. Staffing shortage." There was also a small note at the bottom, typed plain and cold. "Failure to report may result in disciplinary action." That means punishment at work. It means you might lose your job. I looked at her. "So you were called in early?" "Yes, Your Honor," she said. "And when I got there, I couldn't find any open spots close enough to walk my kids in safely." Mr. Lawton made a clicking sound with his tongue. "There it is," he said. "Always someone else's fault." I held up a hand. "Mr. Lawton." He stopped, but only because I made him. Ms. Vega continued. "I don't park like that normally," she said. "I'm scared of tickets. I'm scared of anything that costs money." That sentence landed hard, because fear of anything that costs money is a kind of prison. I asked, "How much is the ticket?" She swallowed. $125. For some people that is lunch. For others that is groceries and bus fare and a child's shoes. Before I could respond, Mr. Lawton leaned forward. "Judge," he said, "I have evidence too." I didn't like the way he said it, like he was the prosecutor. Still, I kept control. "What evidence?" I asked. He pulled out his phone, the newest model, with a case that looked like polished leather. "I recorded the chaos," he said, "and I called a friend who knows people. I'm not going to pretend this is normal." That was confrontation number 1 turning into something bigger. "Mr. Lawton," I said, "you're not the one being charged here." He smiled again. "Maybe that's the problem." The gallery made a low sound, like a wave of disbelief. I turned to the clerk. "Do we have the officer present?" Officer Klein stepped forward. He was in uniform. His face was tired too, but his was a different tired. It was the tired of someone who has seen too many close calls in a fire lane. I asked him, "Officer, did you observe the vehicle in the fire lane?" "Yes, Your Honor," he said. "It was unattended for several minutes." "Did you see children?" "I did," he said. "Two kids. They were standing with security inside the door when I returned to the area." I nodded. "Did Ms. Vega return?" "She did," he said. "She was upset. She explained she's a hospital worker and a single mother." "Did she argue?" I asked. "No," he said. "She apologized." That mattered to me. Then Mr. Lawton cut in again, sharper this time. "Of course she apologized," he said. "That's what people do when they get caught." The word people again. I looked at him. "Mr. Lawton, sit down." He did, but he did it slowly, like he was making a point. Confrontation number 2 came when he tried to use influence. "Judge Caprio," he said loudly, "I know Deputy Commissioner Hargrove. He plays golf with my uncle. I could make a call and this whole thing could go a different way, but I'm here because I care about safety." There it was, the name drop, the "I know someone" move. I kept my face neutral, but inside, my patience got thinner. "Mr. Lawton," I said, "in this courtroom, a last name you know does not change what is right." He shrugged. "Maybe it should." I turned to Officer Klein. "Officer, do we have body camera footage?" Officer Klein hesitated. "Your Honor, my camera was on earlier, but the battery died mid-shift. I do have dispatch call logs, though." He handed over a document. Evidence number 2. It was a printout of dispatch notes and call times. I read it carefully. At 7:42 a.m., a call came in from a D. Lawton reporting an unsafe hospital worker vehicle and requesting immediate enforcement. At 7:44 a.m., another call came in from the same number, asking if an officer was on the way yet. At 7:46 a.m., a third call came in. 3 calls in 4 minutes. That wasn't about safety, that was about control. I looked at Mr. Lawton. "You called dispatch 3 times?" He sat straighter. "I was being responsible." "Responsible," I repeated, "or impatient." He smirked. "Look, I don't like when rules get bent. It starts small, then it spreads." I nodded slowly. "Rules do matter, but so does mercy." Then Ms. Vega spoke again, and her voice shook more now. "I wasn't trying to bend rules," she said. "I was trying to keep my kids safe and keep my job." Mr. Lawton turned toward her like a snake turning its head. "You could have stayed home," he said. Ms. Vega stared at him. "Then we don't eat," she said, simple and honest. The gallery reacted. Someone whispered, "That's right." I felt something in my chest tighten, because that sentence is the truth for a lot of people. Confrontation number 3 came when Mr. Lawton crossed the line, not just with me, but with her. He stood up again, even though he was told not to. "You want the truth?" he said, pointing at Ms. Vega. "If you can't afford a ticket, you can't afford a car. People like you clog the streets, clog the hospitals, clog everything." I saw Ms. Vega flinch like she'd been slapped. I sat forward. "Mr. Lawton," I said, voice firm now, "you will not speak to her that way. This court is not your living room. You don't get to throw words at people and act clean after." He laughed, actually laughed. Then he said, "I'm just saying what everyone thinks. You're the one pretending this is some hero story." That word, hero, hung in the air. Ms. Vega blinked fast. She was fighting tears. I turned to Officer Klein. "Officer, do we have any video from hospital security?" Officer Klein nodded. "Yes, Your Honor. The hospital sent a clip with their report. The clerk played it on the court monitor. Evidence number 3. The video showed the hospital entrance. It showed Ms. Vega rushing in with 2 kids, one holding a small backpack with a cartoon patch. She spoke to security. She looked nervous. She kept checking the door like she knew her car was in the wrong place. Then the video showed something else. A man, Mr. Lawton, standing outside, filming with his phone. But he wasn't filming the car. He was filming her kids. He zoomed in on them, then pointed and laughed at something he said off camera. Then, on the video, he walked toward the car and placed a bright orange traffic cone behind it, like he was trying to make it look worse, like it was blocking more space than it really was. That was not safety. That was theater. The courtroom made a loud sound all at once, gasps, murmurs. A woman in the gallery said, "Oh my God." Ms. Vega covered her mouth with her hand. I stared at the screen, then at Mr. Lawton. "You moved a cone behind her car?" I asked. He waved it off. I was highlighting the danger. "Highlighting," I repeated, tasting the word, "or making it look bigger." He leaned back, confident. "So what? It's a cone. This is all small stuff." That's when the air changed. Because he didn't just disrespect her anymore. He disrespected the truth. And then came the moment that people talk about later. The moment that turns a normal case into a story that sticks. Viral moment. Mr. Lawton stepped forward like he owned the bench. He looked right at Ms. Vega, not at me, at her. "You know what?" he said loud and clear. "You're not a mom. You're a walking excuse with too little props." For about 10 seconds, nobody moved. 10 seconds of silence in a courtroom feels like a whole minute. It feels like you can hear dust fall. Ms. Vega froze. Her eyes went wide like she could not believe a person could say that out loud. Then the gallery erupted. People didn't clap. This wasn't a show. They reacted like human beings. A man in the back said, "That's disgusting." Another woman said, "Shame on you." I heard someone suck in a breath like they were about to cry. I felt my own face change. I'm not proud of anger, but I am not ashamed of it when it shows up for the right reason. I looked at Mr. Lawton, and I could tell he thought he had won, like he had landed a punch, but he didn't know what he had really done. He had shown me who he was. And now it was my turn to speak. Act 3 is where I do what I have to do. I took a slow breath so my voice would stay steady. In this job, if I raise my voice, some people think they can raise theirs. I don't give them that ladder. "Mr. Lawton," I said, "say your last name again for the record." "Lawton," he said, still smug. I nodded. "Mr. Lawton, Mr. Lawton, Mr. Lawton." I said it 3 times because I wanted him to feel that his name was not armor. It was just a name. "You called a mother a walking excuse," I said. "You called her children props. Those are your words, not mine." He rolled his eyes. "It's just a way of talking." "No," I said. "It's a way of thinking." I leaned forward. "Let me ask you a hard question, Mr. Lawton," I said. "When was the last time you had to choose between getting to work and keeping your children safe?" He opened his mouth, then shut it. "When was the last time you carried 2 bags, 2 kids, and worry all at once?" I asked. "When was the last time you had to pray your car would start? Because if it didn't, you might lose your job." He shrugged. "That's not my problem." "That's the point," I said. "You think the world is a private club. You think some people belong and some people should stand outside." I picked up evidence number 1 again. "This schedule says she was called in early. It says she could be disciplined if she didn't come. That means she was pushed. That means she was trying." Then I tapped evidence number 2. "And this call log shows you called dispatch 3 times in 4 minutes. Not because you were scared, because you wanted power. You wanted to hurry up the punishment." Then I looked at evidence number 3. "And this video shows you filming her children. It shows you placing a cone behind her car. That is not safety. That is cruelty." He snapped, "You're making her a saint." I shook my head. "No, I'm making her a human being." I turned to Ms. Vega. "Ms. Vega," I said, "you made a mistake parking there. Fire lanes are serious." She nodded quickly. "Yes, Your Honor, I know." Then I turned back to him. "But you, Mr. Lawton," I said, "you made a choice. You chose to humiliate. You chose to insult. You chose to try to bend this court with names and pressure." He scoffed. "You're overreacting." I let a short silence sit between us. "Mr. Lawton," I said, "listen carefully. You are not on trial for being rich. You are not on trial for wearing a nice suit. You are on trial for acting like respect is only for people you approve of." The gallery quieted again. They leaned in. I asked, "Do you know what a hero is, Mr. Lawton?" He smirked. "Someone in a cape?" "A hero," I said, "is someone who shows up when it is hard. someone who helps others even when nobody is watching, someone who keeps going even when life keeps hitting them. I looked at Ms. Vega again. She goes into a hospital every day, I said. She moves patients who are scared. She helps families who are crying. She does work that keeps the whole place running. I looked back at him. And you stood outside with a phone, I said, filming children like it was entertainment. He tried to interrupt, but I lifted my hand. I'm not done, I said. Then I said the line that came from my heart, simple and clear. Ms. Vega is not the problem with this city, I said. Ms. Vega is one of the reasons this city survives. Ms. Vega's eyes filled. A tear slid down her cheek. Mr. Lawton looked around and realized the room was not with him. His face tightened. Now Act 4, sentencing and decisions. I turned to Ms. Vega. Ms. Vega, I said, the ticket is for a fire lane. The rule matters, but I also have to look at the whole picture. I held up the schedule, then pointed to the video. You did not park there to party, I said. You parked there because you were trying to get your children inside safely and get to your shift. She whispered, Yes, Your Honor. I nodded. I believe you. I closed the file. I'm dismissing the ticket, I said. No fine, no court costs. The gallery let out a breath like they had been holding it. Ms. Vega's knees looked like they might buckle. She put a hand to her chest. Thank you, she said, and her voice cracked. But I wasn't finished because there was still a lesson sitting in the room, staring at me in a navy suit. I turned to Mr. Lawton. Mr. Lawton, I said, you are not the defendant on the parking ticket, but your actions today created a separate issue. He lifted his chin. What issue? I looked him in the eye. Your behavior, I said, is disrespectful to this court, disrespectful to this city, and cruel to a mother who was doing her best. He laughed once under his breath. That was a mistake. I raised my hand slightly. The bailiff stepped closer, not touching him yet, just close enough that he could feel the boundary. Here is what I'm going to do, I said, and I spoke in stages, so each part landed. First, I said, I am issuing a court order for public accountability. You will write a handwritten apology to Ms. Vega, not typed, handwritten, 1 full page. You will read it aloud in this courtroom at a review hearing. His smile vanished. You can't make me make. I held up a finger. Second, I said, you will complete 60 hours of community service. He shook his head like he couldn't believe the number. Listen carefully, I said. This service will not be somewhere you can hide. I looked down at my notes, then back up. You will do 60 hours over 6 Saturdays, I said. 10 hours each Saturday from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. He started to speak. I didn't let him. You will do it at the Providence Community Support Center, I said, helping families sign up for food assistance and child care resources. You will be supervised by the program director. You will sign in and sign out. If you miss a day, you make it up double. His face turned red. Third, I said, you will complete a short, court-approved public service talk. He blinked. A talk? Yes, I said. A 5-minute talk at a local driver safety class. You will tell them what you did wrong, not what Ms. Vega did, what you did. He looked at me like I was speaking another language. And fourth, I said, because you tried to influence the court by name-dropping and pressure, you will surrender your license for 30 days. The gallery made a sharp sound. That one surprised them. Mr. Lawton exploded. This is insane. I stayed calm. No, Mr. Lawton. Insane is thinking respect is optional. He pointed at me. You're doing this for a viral moment. That was contempt. Contempt means disrespect for the court. I looked at the bailiff. The bailiff stepped in. Mr. Lawton, I said, stand still. What are you? He started. The bailiff took his arms gently but firmly. Handcuffs came out. The metal clicked. The sound filled the room like a warning bell. Mr. Lawton's eyes got wide now. The first time he looked afraid. This is a custody moment, I said, so the record was clear. You crossed a line in my courtroom. He tried to pull back, but the bailiff held him steady. I said, you will spend 24 hours in custody for contempt, and you will return here for a review hearing on case 2026 CT 221 tomorrow at 9 a.m. The gallery went quiet again, not with shock this time, but with a kind of deep agreement. Mr. Lawton's voice dropped. "Judge, come on." "No," I said, "not come on. Not today." Then I looked at Ms. Vega. "Ms. Vega," I said, "I want you to hear me." She looked up. "You are not a walking excuse," I said. "You are a mother, you are a worker, and you are a hero to your kids." Her mouth trembled. She nodded, tears falling now. "Go home," I said. "Go take care of those kids, and be careful where you park." She let out a soft laugh through tears. "Yes, Your Honor, I will." Act 5 is the aftermath. I chose option A, because I believe people can change, but only if they do the work. 6 weeks later, I saw Mr. Lawton again. He walked into Providence Municipal Court wearing a plain sweater, no gold watch, no slick smile. His hair was still neat, but not flashy. He looked like someone who had been humbled, which means brought back down to earth. The bailiff called the review matter. Mr. Lawton stood, slower this time, and held a paper in his hands. "I completed the 60 hours, he said. His voice was quieter. The program director had sent a report. It said he showed up on time. It said he helped parents fill out forms. It said he carried boxes without complaining after the first day. It said he apologized to staff for his attitude." I looked at him. "Did you write the apology?" "Yes," he said, and his throat moved like he was swallowing something hard. Ms. Vega was there too. She stood near the front, not because she had to, but because she wanted to see if words could become real. Mr. Lawton read his handwritten page. His hand shook a little. He did not excuse himself. He did not talk about people like her. He just said he was wrong. He said he had forgotten that real life is heavy for many families. He said he was sorry for filming her children. He said he was sorry for trying to make her look worse. When he finished, the room stayed quiet, but it was a different quiet. Not fear, not shock. It was the quiet of a lesson sinking in. Ms. Vega nodded once. She did not hug him. She did not clap. She simply said, "Thank you for saying it." That was enough. Final scene. Plus moral. After court ended, I sat alone for a moment, looking at the empty seats. This job is not about punishing people until I feel powerful. It is about teaching the truth in a way people can't ignore. I thought about Ms. Vega walking those long hospital halls. I thought about her kids waiting for her to come home. I thought about how easy it is for the world to miss quiet heroes. Some people wear uniforms, some people wear scrubs, some people wear tired faces and still show up anyway. Justice is not just a rule book. Justice is dignity. Dignity means we do not crush people who are already carrying too much. And if a person walks into my courtroom thinking they are above everyone else, I will remind them of something simple. No one is too important to learn respect.